Hello everyone, and welcome back to Dragalia Foundry, a fan channel where everything Dragalia lost can be found. It's been a while since I did an Adventurer Spotlight video, but our exciting new free unit, Audric, was such a pleasant surprise that I decided I wanted to highlight him. Glean what you may from his description and epithet, but I won't go into spoilers today, and I suggest you wait until after you've read the Fractured Futures epilogue to check out Audric's adventurer story. Instead, we're going to start by hopping right into some gameplay while I overview Audric's stats, skills, and abilities. This was a fun triple Audric High Jupiter clear, so big thanks to everyone who took part in it. Audric is a natural 4-star Shadow Element swordsman with a unique emphasis on shapeshifting that sets him apart. His stats are middling, but his special abilities allow him to perform feats that no other adventurer can currently accomplish. Foremost among those is his built-in shapeshift prep of 10%, which means that even outside of raids, an entire co-op team can access a dragon to start a quest. This allows for shenanigans like transforming into a dragon to tank the High Dragon's opening blast, like we did in this gameplay footage. Audric can essentially ferry any adventurer into any High Dragon trial. Besides memes, Audric also has applications for raids and speed clears. In raid events, Audric capitalizes on his other unique ability, Cursed Blood, which gives him 30% more critical rates at the cost of 30% less defense while in dragon form. This ability is basically all upside since dragons can't take damage anyway, so the reduced defense only means you can be knocked out of dragon form more quickly if you take attacks, which itself is not bad. And for speed clears, accessing an instant dragon is powerful. While this was previously available in solo play, thanks to the use of helpers with shapeshift prep, it's now accessible for things like Void Endeavors. In addition, if you set Audric himself as a helper, you can give up to 29% dragon gauge to whoever it is that you're helping out. While shapeshifting isn't always a DPS gain, when the dragons you and your teammates become have powerful dragon forms and attack combos, or effects like those of Cupid and Leviathan, it can be huge. It's hard to say, but Audric may even have a place in the upcoming Expert High Dragon Time Attack trials. Where Audric falters somewhat is that his skills do low damage, and his affliction resistance to paralysis only hits 50%. The lack of affliction resistance can be patched up at the cost of a DPS print, since it may be a liability considering Audric's shapeshifting emphasis. While afflicted, he won't be able to transform. Meanwhile, Audric's first skill, Exaltation Terminus, has a low 700% total damage ratio, slightly below that of normal Udens, and far below the damage output of our other Shadow Raid unit, Photon, due to bleed. One upside to this skill is that it does fit with Audric's kit in that it increases dragon gauge by 3%. But it's difficult to quantify how impactful that is over the course of an entire match. In some contexts, 3% could make no difference in how many dragons you get to use. In others, it might lead to an extra dragon per match. This is because bosses often drop dragon gauge crystals in discrete chunks. For example, Nightmare Sabinok always dropped 50% whenever one of his limbs was demolished, so it really depends on which boss you're facing off against how valuable this skill will be. Audric's second skill is just the basic attack, so there's not much to say there. If using 3 basic attacks into a 4-strike, his first skill charges after 3 combos, and his second skill charges after 6 combos. For most sword adventurers, this rotation, or 2 basic attacks into a 4-strike, tends to be preferred. And as mentioned in past spotlights, swords are effective at diminishing the overdrive bar relatively fast with their good 4-strikes. That's it for the overview, so now let's talk build ideas for Audric. What equipment you want to use will depend a lot on the purpose for Audric in your team comp. If your game plan with Audric is to dragon immediately, then you'll likely want some additional shapeshift prep on his Wyrmprints, depending on how many Audrics your teammates are using. Bridal Dragon is the best source of shapeshift prep for now since it comes with some extra dragon damage. As a general pairing with this, I like the Shining Overlord. Its Dragon's Claw's ability permanently boosts the user's strength whenever they shapeshift, which is exactly what Audric wants to be doing. The print also grants 40% skill damage to sword adventurers, which is why I prefer this setup over an Ancient Oath, another newer print with Dragon's Claws. If you can't reliably dragon for whatever reason, then you could swap to Resounding Rendition plus Beautiful Nothingness instead. If you do need to shore up Audric's Affliction resistance, however, Happy New Year and After an Eternity are viable options. If you missed out on the Happy New Year print, then Castaway's Journal is workable as well as a 4-star. Happy New Year and Castaway's Journal have the upside of giving Audric a sizable amount of light res, making them solid against High Jupiter's Trial, while After an Eternity is better for content like the Chronos Nyx raid, since other afflictions besides paralysis are a factor there, and the Affliction Guard ability on After an Eternity can catch them. When it comes to weapons, Audric is best equipped with either the 5-star Elemental Sword Dainsleif or the Void Sword Abyssbringer for use against High Jupiter specifically. For players in the early or mid game though, note that 4-star swords like Dark Dementia work just fine. Doomfang is also great for use against Void Gene specifically. As for dragons, the new Chthonius is a standout if you do intend to shapeshift often with Audric. Every shapeshift furthers Audric's power, and this does stack with the Dragon's Claw's abilities found on Wyrmprints. If you have already invested in another Shadow Dragon like Marishiten or Shinobi, however, both are excellent. Audric's ability to diminish the overdrive gauge is certainly better with a Strength Dragon like Marishiten, but a Skill Damage Dragon like Shinobi, especially with its multi-hit attacks in Dragon form, may edge out Marishiten in terms of overall DPS. All 3 of these dragons are viable options, and for those without access to them, Parallel Zodiark and Juggernaut are solid choices. If a dragon similar to Long Long and Arctos ever releases in the Shadow element, it would be excellent too. Finally, when it comes to teammates, Audric synergizes particularly well with very few adventurers since there aren't many units who rely on shapeshift mechanics. Furthermore, multiple adventurers shapeshifting at once is only possible in co-op, so these pairings only really shine there. In that context though, Gala Yuden is a standout who improves damage in dragon form for the entire team, and who himself benefits from Audric's shapeshift prep to transform earlier. The other standout in my mind is Gala Mim, since she can work with Audric to build up the dragon gauge, and she has a powerful dragon-centric kit. The only question is what context these 3 adventurers would really team up in, and, well, that brings me to Audric's weaknesses. Despite serving a unique role, in some sense, Audric's niche isn't really needed for any current content in the game. He lets us do some fun, interesting clears, true, but Audric also isn't likely to help you clear stages in the Mercurial Gauntlet, nor is he ideal for High Jupiter's Trial. He can probably work in Light Imperial Onslaught and Void John, sure, but when Shadow is so stacked as an element, it becomes difficult for him to find a spot. Audric is certainly an adventurer worth keeping an eye on, and an absolute treat for those who enjoy unusual and challenging clears of existing content. From a story standpoint, I also can't help but love him as well. But ultimately, I think Audric is more exciting than he is practical. I promoted mine, and I do enjoy using him, but I question how much use he'll provide me in the future. You can certainly do worse if you're a newer player and are building your very first Shadow team, but for more enfranchised players with an established roster, I'd recommend you stick to bleed-inducing units and other multi-purpose powerhouses like Delphi, Natalie, Gala Cleo, Curran, Veronica, Heinwald, and Yaten, to name a few. Even the Shadow Welfare unit from the main campaign, Alex, is likely a more pragmatic investment for now. Alright, and that's going to do it for this Adventurer Spotlight. Let me know what you think of Audric in the comments below. Did you promote yours? Is there anything I missed? Do you have any more tips or build ideas for him? I look forward to reading what you have to say. Otherwise, everyone, thank you so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you next time.